everybody, and welcome to the Week 3 Prep Rally here on madison.com. Alongside Dennis Summerall, I'm Rob Hernandez. And Dennis, we're in Mount Horeb today, which means it must be Wanakee Week. The Wanakee Warriors come to town Friday night, 7 o'clock, the big game here at Mount Horeb against Mount Horeb Barneveld. And tell you, after the first 2 weeks of the season, I don't think this game could get more interesting.
You know, both Wanakee and Mount Horeb have scored over 80 points the first 2 weeks. Last time I was here, last year, 13-10. Wanakee pulled it out. A lot of different names, though, this year. New quarterbacks, new running backs. Isaiah LaSure, though, is back for Mount Horeb, and Troy Laufenberg for Wanakee. But a lot of new faces, so we'll see. This is definitely all the looks of a shootout.
Yeah, and I tell you, Week 1, Wanakee's loss to Madison Edgewood opened some eyes. The Warriors bounced back with a win over Monroe last week. Mount Horeb Barneveld survived a scare last week from Oregon, and so they come in. They were on the throes of coming in off of a loss, but rallied to win that game. Pretty exciting stuff. Dan Kissling making it tough on Travis Rohr and company.
I'll tell you, 46-39. This was just a great game. I was following that on Twitter the whole way. I was up at the Forest. A very good game against Edgewood, and yeah, like you said. Anytime these two teams get together, Mount Horeb is definitely now one of the elite teams. Not only do they have this week, next week they've got the Forest, so two tough ones in a row.
I was going to ask you about that, Dennis, because it seems to me like there's a triangle going on here in the Badger North this year with Wanakee, Mount Horeb, Barneveld, and DeForest. This is almost a playing game to make both their games with DeForest mean something. But you know, Mount Horeb with the quick turnaround, Wanakee's got them later in the season. Are we looking at three pretty equal teams in the Badger North?
I think we are. I think Wanakee's defense will get better as the season goes on. They get a couple players back and they mature a little bit more. Mount Horeb lost an awful lot, but again, the system that Travis Rohr has put in, they really can move the ball on offense and they can score a lot of points in a hurry. But I think the best defense in the area, bar none, DeForest. Great effort against a very good Edgewood team. It took a double pass and a 50-yard field goal by Jake Dragoo to keep Edgewood in that game. And then they got a late defensive touchdown on a razzle-dazzle play at the end when Edgewood tried to rally. But DeForest, I think, right now has to be the team to beat because of their defense.
And Dennis, we talk about the Badger South. Oregon, who we mentioned giving Mount Horeb Barneveld a scare, now they've got Monona Grove this week. I think you and I were both in agreement. We thought maybe Fort Atkinson, Madison, Edgewood, the two teams that might challenge the Silver Eagles, we might have a surprise contender in that battle. And we might find out a lot about the Panthers and Dan Kissling's club this week.
Well, the one thing I heard about preseason was Oregon's got a lot of great skill players. They did very well in the 7-on-7 passing leagues, but when you add the linemen in, that's a different story. And Dan Kissling, the coach at Oregon, said, yes, the line, he's got some good players, but doesn't have a lot of depth there. So early in the season to get this matchup is probably a good one for them. Monona Grove's normally a very strong defensive team, but with Tyler Blank at quarterback, it looks like their offense is picking it up pretty quick. So we could have another shootout there as well.
Dennis, last week our big game on our prep rally for Week 2 was Sun Prairie against Verona. That game won on a field goal as time expired by Dustin Wonderland. And so, at least for a moment, the top of the conference is clear as far as in relation of Sun Prairie and Verona. This week, our Big 8 conference focus shifts to the city. Last week, while all the attention was focused on Sun Prairie, 3 city teams, I believe, won last week. And we've got Memorial, La Follette, and Madison West all looking good early on. La Follette and West, our big game in the Big 8 this week. I'm excited by this because to me, city football being good is good for the Big 8.
Yeah, I talked to Greg Velasky earlier today, and he said, I asked, is city football back? He goes, appears to be. Looks pretty good. La Follette's had 2 blowout wins over East and Parker, a couple of 0-2 teams right now. Meanwhile, West has had some tough ones. They had to play first week, Sun Prairie, 14-12. Last week, they were one of the teams that got interrupted. They were down at Cragen with the weather. It took a while to get that game in before they pulled it out. So they're 1-1, but you got a great matchup of teams head-to-head. And then, again, you take a look at Madison Memorial, now 2-0.
Yep.
First week, it was run the ball. Last week, Derice Fountain, 2 big, long touchdowns. And Tolman had another great game at quarterback for them. So Memorial can put some points up on the board, too. And right now, and East is an up-and-coming program. I think they've got a good junior class, and don't take them for granted because that's a team that could upset you.
Well, we'll take a look at that one, Dennis, as we look out across the area. Some big games in the SWC. We've got round 1 of Platteville-Lancaster. That game this week at Lancaster. They'll meet again later in the season at Platteville because of the 6-team conference. They get to play each other twice. Platteville, the heartbreak loser last week. Dodgeville rallies to win a shootout down at Pioneer Stadium. It was like 49-46 or something like that.
48-45.
So there you go.
2 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes of the game, and that's a heartbreaker, I think, for a Platteville team. But it shows Dodgeville's for real too. But this, again, we've talked about in the SWC having to play 3 teams twice on your schedule. This is the first one, and so it's not a winner-take-all like some of the other leagues, but it makes it a little more interesting.
And then, of course, down in the southwest part of the state in the SWAL, Darlington off to a good start, bounced back from the loss last week to Platteville. Bounced back from the week 1 loss to Platteville to beat New Glarus Monticello last week. Dennis, they've got Iowa Grant, 2 teams that are usually pretty strong. In slowly but surely, we're kind of, each week we add a couple conferences entering conference play. That's a pretty good game right off the bat.
Yeah, you said it right there. The first couple weeks you got non-conference. The Big Eight's the one real exception that has to play all conference games. But I think, that's going to be a fun one down there, I think.
You got Cole McDonald, you got Tanner Weigel, and Jason Singer returned to kickoff for a touchdown last week. So it looks like the Redbirds very explosive. We'll find out if they can keep it up against Iowa Grant. Dennis, a lot to look forward to this week in week 3. So we'll look forward to the live blog on Friday night on wisconsinprepzone.com. We've got updates from all over the area as we get into conference play. And, of course, we'll be back here next week on Prep Rally. For Dennis Semrau, I'm Rob Hernandez. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the stadium.